Good afternoon and welcome to lecture 1 of project planning and control. In this lecture we are going to cover different aspects of project planning and scheduling. We are also going to learn the techniques of monitoring the project. Besides this, we are going to learn many more things in this particular course. And in the beginning I just provide you the brief outline of this course which is given in this particular slide. If you just look at this slide, this describes the content for this particular course. We are going to learn work study, the work breakdown structure, the different ways to estimate the time. We are going to learn the application of PERT and CPM, the various statistical concepts. We are going to learn the different managerial aspects for management of manpower, material, machinery and the finance. We are going to discuss the time cost trade-off, then the different methods to plan your resources, resource leveling we are going to cover, and resource allocation also we are going to cover in this lecture, in this course. We are going to learn how to crash a project network, what are its advantages, what are its disadvantages. Then some lectures would be covering this material management aspect. We are going to learn the different processes involved in this material management. And then finally we will also be studying the human resource management. So this is the brief outline of the course which we are going to cover in next few lectures. Right. Now I just want you to understand what a construction project means, how it is planned, what are the different steps involved in planning of a project, what is the construction industry, what is the role of construction projects in country's growth, how the growth of construction industry affects the growth of the nation's economy. These things we are going to cover in this introductory lecture. We are also going to discuss the various phases in which the project moves, right? It is similar to the life cycle that a human being has. Okay, so these are the things that we are going to cover in this first lecture. To start with, I don't know about Ethiopian construction industry, but if you take the case of India, it is the second largest industry next to agriculture. So can you tell me what is the largest industry that your country has and where construction exactly is placed? Which is the largest industry?
Agriculture.
And what is the next one? Next one?
Construction.
Okay, so it is very similar to our side of the story. So in India also is the similar case. The agriculture, we have the largest industry. Besides that, at the second place we have this construction industry. Now coming to this employment in construction industry, you find that there are about 30 million people which are engaged in construction industry in India. Do you have any idea how many people are involved in construction industry in Ethiopia? So I want you to find data on these aspects. How many people are employed in construction industry? What is the share of construction industry in Ethiopia's GDP of your country? How much percentage? This is to be left blank. In case of India, you find it is about 6%. So construction contributes about 6% of the GDP. In most of the country you will find this is a similar statistics. Most of the countries, right? And the role of construction is very important as far as the country's infrastructure is concerned, right? You will also have to tell me how many projects in Ethiopia are having this time and cost overruns. You understand this time and cost overruns? Basically, suppose your project duration is 30 months, right? Project duration is 30 months, right? And its cost is, let's say, $100 million, let's say. Now, if you are able to complete this in time, then there is no time overrun. If you are able to complete this in this budget, then you say that there is no cost overrun. But completing a project of 30 months exactly in 30 months time and completing it within the budgeted cost is not very commonly observed in Indian scenario. According to one statistics, about 40% of central government projects are facing time and cost overrun. Now these situations are improving, of course, but this is the data which is quite recent ones, right? Now all this information I want you to collect for Ethiopian construction industry. Can you find out this? Do you have access to such data? Can you find out these values? But you have to find out. Do you have a industry development council? In most of the countries they have this construction industry development council. You have something like this? Development council. Most of the countries they have this kind of setup. Basically this is an association of construction contractors, engineers, consultants. Do you have such kind of association existing in your country? Any idea? You have one national authority which deals in producing standardization codes. Are you familiar with that? You have certain agency which prepares the national standard for your country. Are you familiar with that?
At the minister level there is, but we don't have an association or council like this.
Okay, but there is some kind of association, no? At national level, I think.
At national level we have ministry.
Okay, ministry.
Urban development.
Okay, urban development ministry. Okay, fine. So you can try to find out these data. What happens is normally your urban development ministry will have a list of all the projects. So project 1, project 2, project 3. They may be constructing certain bridges in Addis Ababa. They may be constructing certain highways in some parts of the country. So they may be having all the data. What is the duration? What is the cost estimate? And they will also be monitoring those projects. So they will also have got the data on how much is the time delay, how much is the cost overrun or underrun. All these data I want you to collect for your country. So can you do this?
Okay.
So actually you should try to understand because there is no point in understanding Indian construction industry because it may not be relevant to you. What you should be concerned about the status of Ethiopian construction industry, because after all you will be going to improve the status of your country, right? So you must understand what is the level of your construction industry at current point of time and how you plan to improve that, right? So you must understand what is the current status, how many percentage of projects are showing time overrun, cost overrun, in how many projects you have a problem of quality, in how many projects you find that there are number of accidents occurring every now and then. So all these things you have to address. So you must be familiar with the current status, and then you have certain benchmark set for yourself, and you need to improve your performance so that you can reach up to your benchmark level, right? Now the success of any construction, the success for any country's infrastructure is depending on how its construction projects are performing. If you find that there is less instances of time and cost overrun, you find that your resources are being utilized quite effectively. If your projects are showing the time overrun and cost overrun, you find that your resources are getting wasted, right? So you should not land yourself in such a situation wherein you have a situation of time and cost overrun, right? Now for any project to be successful, there are certain factors which need to be there, right? So basically the performance of a project is evaluated in terms of a success or a failure, right? So you can have two kinds of projects. One, you call them as successful project, another you call it as failed project, right? So these are the performance level for any project. Now normally the performance is measured traditionally with the help of cost compliance, time compliance, schedule compliance, and quality compliance. Now these are also known as quality triangle, right? I mean iron triangle, this you call it as. So here you have cost, here you have time, and here you have quality. This triangle is known as iron triangle. This triangle is known as iron triangle. So traditionally the performances of the projects were measured against these three parameters: whether the project has achieved its cost target, whether it has been completed within the time frame set for the project, whether the quality yardsticks that had been formulated for this particular project, whether those have been met or not, right? So these three parameters are your traditional performance measuring criteria, right? Now in addition to these three, there are a number of other criteria also that are in vogue. For example, safety. For example, dispute. Okay, then you have a satisfaction of project participants. Satisfaction of project participants. We will see who are these participants. They are also sometimes referred to as stakeholders. So we will be discussing the various participants or stakeholders involved in a project, right? Then you also sometimes see whether the project has met the technical criteria. Sometimes you also see whether the project has resulted into some sort of innovation, right? So these are some of the criteria which are used to measure the performance of a project. So they are also referred to as project performance criteria. So you have this cost, quality, schedule or time, whatever you say. So these are the traditional sets of performance criteria, and other criterias are also given in this particular piece of paper. Now, out of these criterias, you can divide them into two sets. One you call it as quantitative criteria. One you call it as quantitative criteria. Other you call it as qualitative. So the project performance criteria, you can distinguish it under two heads. Quantitative, so this is N is missing, so you have this quantitative here, and qualitative criteria. Now quantitative criteria is also sometimes referred to as tangible criteria. So quantitative is nothing but tangible criteria. So these attributes, these performance criteria, you can measure. So tangible means it is possible to measure them. So out of these listed criteria, which one you think are tangible, which you can measure in quantitative terms? Can you just tell me which are the ones which I can put it under quantitative? So I write it here. So this is my quantitative criteria. And here is my qualitative criteria. Right? So can you tell me under this which one will come? What about time? This you can measure, there is no doubt about that. So suppose the project is for 30 months and you have completed in 33 months, that means there is a 10% delay. That means you can measure them. There is no subjectivity involved here in quantitative criteria. Similarly, the cost, $100 million project, if it is getting completed in $110 million, that means there is a cost overrun of 10%. So this also is measurable. Okay, what about other criterias? Can you tell me, can you help me in filling this, these two columns? Can you tell me? Just make a guess. Make a guess here and help me in completing this table. Which one? Safety. You are telling safety?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Here, safety, how do you measure? With the number of accident rates that you have. So there are different statistics. We will discuss what statistics we measure. For example, how many number of minor injuries, how many major injuries, how many fatal cases. So you can have some kind of quantitative data for safety also. What about quality? Quality, whether you put it here or here. Quantitative? Here or here? Here. This is correct? This is where you are telling me to write? Here. Now there is a question whether this quality should come here or it should come here. Now this brings to the basic question, how do you define quality? How do you define quality? Yes? How do you define construction quality? Yes? Can you just speak loudly, please?
Quality means, so artists require durability or any quality.
To achieve the required durability? Okay, just tell me this simple question. Suppose you have told the contractor to provide you 100 thick RCC slab of M20 grade concrete. You understand? 100 thick slab you have asked, and you have asked to give you M20 grade concrete. Right? Now if the contractor is giving you 120 thick RCC and with M20 grade, will you call that as a quality product? Instead of 100 the contractor is giving you 120 and both M20 grade of concrete. Is it a quality product? No or yes?
It achieves the quality, but the quantity is not correct.
Okay, the quantity he has not matched, but quality he has met. This is what you are saying? Now, okay, tell me another question. What I wanted you to understand is, quality is not really a qualitative term. In construction, this is a very commonly mistaken thing, right? People think that quality is subjective. No, quality is not subjective. Can you tell me two brands of car? Let's say there is one Mercedes. Okay? You have a Mercedes car, right? And then you have a Toyota car. And then you have, let's say, a very high-end car, Rolls Royce, you have heard of? Okay? Clear? Now, which one you call it as a quality product? Or let's say there is another product, let's say Hyundai car. So let's say you have to compare between this and this. Which one you say is a quality car? There is no comparison. Why? Why there is no comparison? So that brings us to this question. So why I am giving you all these examples is because whenever you are trying to measure the quality, just think what you were supposed to deliver. Think what you were supposed to deliver. Whether you have delivered exactly the same thing or not, that governs your quality. Okay? So basically, you might have made certain promise, right? Promise in terms of construction quality could be in the form of a specification, tender drawing. Okay, So basically these documents specify you what kind of product you should make, what should be the material that should be used, what should be the kind of process that needs to be used. Now if you are measuring those things, if you are delivering those things exactly as per the promise that you had made, that means you are doing a quality product. Is it clear to you? So now where do you put this quality? In quantitative term or in qualitative term? Quantitative. Now I give you something more, some more example. When you sign a contract document, right? Basically it's an agreement between two parties. It's an agreement between two parties. One party has promised the other to do a certain thing. The specifications give you the details of the material, the details of construction process, the various testing that you have to do. All these are specified. Now whatever specification has been given, if you are following that, you are doing a quality job. So there is no subjectivity involved. This specification will tell you, suppose you have to produce M20 grade concrete. So they will tell you that okay, you have to use aggregate of 20 mm size from such and such quarry. Now if you are doing that, you are doing a quality job. But instead of 20 mm, if you are using maybe 12 mm or 40 mm, that means you are not fulfilling your promise. In the context of Toyota car, suppose you have given the specification of a Toyota car, and if you are getting the same specification, that means it is a quality product. Now in a Hyundai car, you might have asked for different specification, and that is what, if it has been delivered to you, it's also a quality car, right? So all the time you are to compare between what the agency was expected to do, what he was promised, what he had promised to deliver. While measuring it, you will simply see whether the promise has been kept or not, or whether the contractor has fooled you. If he has fooled you, it means he has not done the quality job, because he has not fulfilled his promise. He has not done the work exactly as per the agreement. So now this quality, I cut it from here. I cut it from here. Here I can write maybe satisfaction of different project participants, because my satisfaction level may be different than you. So if I am not satisfied, I will say that okay, this project is a failure for me. Okay, so all these things can be broadly classified under quantitative and qualitative term. So this was as far as the criteria to judge the performance of a project is concerned. Now there are certain factors which help a project to be a successful project. So if you find that certain attributes are present in a given project, you expect them to be successful. So those parameters are known as success factors. On the same line, you have certain failure factors also. That means if those factors are available in that particular project, you expect that project to be a failed one. Now as far as this discussion goes, it looks very simple to classify a project into a successful project or a failed project. But in practice, you find that it is very difficult for us to classify whether a project is a successful one or a failed one. Because success and failure are quite subjective terms. Different participants view this success and failure in a different manner. For example, for a contractor, if he might have achieved the time, he might have achieved the cost for the owner, cost target for the owner, right? That means he has not asked for any extra payment. He has done the work exactly as per the quality. But if he has not earned any money out of that project, the contractor would think that that project was a waste. That project was a failed one. But for the client, it may be a successful one. Similarly, for a project in which an architect is involved and he has just followed some routine design, routine architecture, although it is satisfying the client's need and clients are happy, the architect may not be satisfied because he has not created anything unique. It is just a routine work. What I am trying to say is, depending on who is evaluating the project, the definition of success and failure for a project may change. Is it clear to you, technology class? So although success and failure look very simple terms, but in practice they are not so. It is very difficult to classify a project under success and failure category. It is very difficult. Then you also find that success and failure are also time dependent. Success and failure are also time dependent. For example, let's say there is an airport project, right? There is an airport project. Suppose there is a large airport coming in some part of your country. Now during the construction you find that they encounter lots of problems. The neighborhood people are not satisfied. They have to face a lot of problems. You also find that project has exceeded the schedule that was decided for that. There is a cost overrun. So all this at the time of construction indicate that the project is a failure one. Project is a failed one. But let's say after few years, if the airport is in very high demand, there is a lot of air traffic involved in that particular project, and it is bringing lots of money to the government, then at that point of time people will say that no, this particular project is a successful one. So people will forget what had happened during the construction stage. So we also see that these projects are also, as far as their outcome is concerned, they are also time dependent, right? Now we try to understand, in some other lecture I will tell you what are the success factors and what are the failure factors for a construction project. I will tell you, this is basically from my PhD work. So in one lecture I will tell you how to carry out the research in construction management. Some of you may be interested in pursuing your master's thesis. Some of you may be thinking of undertaking some PhD work. So I will tell you the detailed research method for conducting such qualitative as well as quantitative research in the field of construction management. That we shall see in separate lecture. Right now I am interested in explaining you how to define a construction project. What are the different unique features of a construction project? How it is different from other types of project, such as manufacturing project, your automobile project, your IT project, because they are also project. But in what sense construction projects are different than these projects? So that aspect we are going to cover. Now if you just look at this particular slide, this tells you the unique features of a construction project. This slide tells you about the unique features of a construction project. Now, if you look closely the construction project, any construction project for that matter, you find that it's a one-time activity. So you don't have the freedom to have retake. You know, you have seen any shooting of a film shooting, in which there are actor, actress, and they perform certain actions. So have you seen any film shooting? So what they do? So they focus the camera and you are expected to act and speak some dialogues, right? And if the director is not satisfied, he goes for a retake. That means the actor is requested to perform the same action again. Now this retake continues till the director is satisfied. So once he is satisfied that okay, so and so actor has done this nicely, then he says okay, final, cut it. Okay, you have seen this? You might have seen in some movie where the action is done again and again till the director is satisfied. Now this kind of freedom is not there in construction project. You understood this? So here you will not be given a chance to rectify your mistake. First of all, you will not be allowed to commit mistake again and again. So in that sense, it's a one-time activity. Suppose you have been awarded a project to construct a hospital building. It may be one of its type. In fact, you will find that no two projects are similar in all respect. So it's not like manufacturing where you are going to perform the routine tasks day in, day out. No, it's not like that. Although there may be some activities which you may be familiar of, but you will find that the conditions for those activities will also change. So in that respect, it's a one-time activity kind. Is it clear to you? Okay. Now sometime you may feel that what is so different about, let's say, a hospital project and any other building project? So you are right in a sense. There are certain activities which may be common in both. You may have certain experience on that. But the conditions in which you perform those activities may not be exactly similar, as in the case of a factory setup, as in the case of a manufacturing industry setup. Right. So in that sense, it is a one-time activity. And you don't have any freedom to commit the mistake. So it must be performed correctly the first time, every time. Then your construction projects, especially the modern construction projects, are very complex. They are multidisciplinary. When you say this complex and multiple disciplinary, you have to take, let's consider any large project. So just think how many agencies are involved. So you have a client, then you may have some different user, you may have contractor, you may have consultant. Then there may be different types of contractors for different jobs. For example, there may be civil contractor, there may be electrical contractor, there may be mechanical contractor. There may be some agency who is involved for heating, ventilation and air conditioning. There may be some company engaged for IT. There may be some company who may be doing this security system, public announcement, firefighting, okay, landscaping, lifts. So you just find how many agencies are involved. Now the objectives, the motives for these participants may vary. You as a contractor may be trying to extract as much money from the client. Client may not be that much inclined to pay you in time. He is more concerned about his work. He is not that much bothered whether you get paid in time or not, right? The subcontractor may not be finding the same objective as that of the main contractor. He may have certain other commitments also somewhere, so he may not be willing to mobilize it as per your requirement, right? So what you find, there are different types of agencies involved. The objectives of those agencies are different, right? So they are all working in different directions. So in that sense, it is very complex. The coordination becomes very, very difficult. Whereas in other industry, other projects, manufacturing, automobile, oil and gas, you have certain streamlined sections, streamlined departments. The objectives for all these departments may be clearly defined, so there are less occurrences of conflicts between them, less chances of disputes between them, and work can be done in a more coordinated manner. But those things are not available in construction projects. We will see something more. For example, take any construction project, reasonable size projects, you find that the cost involved is very high. Cost is very high. Even the duration is also reasonable. A typical project may be taking maybe 18 to 20 months. So what you find, the time and the cost both are substantially high compared to other projects. Then you also have a very high risk of failure. You know, construction projects are full of uncertainties. So there is every reason that the company can make losses. The company may face a situation of time and cost overrun. The company may face a situation of dispute. His payments may be withheld. So there is high risk of failure. In fact, you will find that it's very interesting. If you try to see the failure rate in different industries, construction comes second to the mining industry. As far as uncertainties are concerned, risk is concerned, the most risky industry is mining, right? And next to that, construction is placed. So you find that the second highest failure occurs in construction industry. Now if you just take the history of construction industry, you will find that every year there are large number of companies which go bankrupt. So failure rate in construction is very high. Okay, so the company which you may be knowing, which was doing very good in previously, 10 years back, you will find that that company doesn't exist anymore. That company might have vanished. So this is the kind of nature that we are talking for a construction project, and this is what makes construction project different than other types of project. Then you also find, as we were discussing a while, just a few minutes back, the definition of quality. It is very difficult to define quality here. right? Although we try to define it by comparing it with the construction specifications, the drawings, but still there are some aspects which cannot be measured in a quantitative manner, and in that sense you will have to agree with our friend which placed quality under qualitative term. So to a limited extent he was right, but since I wanted you to understand the new sense of understanding quality, that's why I placed it in which I compared the construction specification, the tender drawings or the good for construction drawings with the that I called it as the promise, and quality I defined as how closely you have met your promise, right? Then in construction project you will also have to understand the uniqueness of people relationship. Just think of a manufacturing industry, a factory, where you have a factory manager. Under him there are different departments, so you have a departmental head, so everybody knows what he has to do, and they do these jobs every day for so many years, so everything is streamlined there. But look at the construction project. Once the project is awarded to the contractor selects a project manager. Now it's the responsibility of the project manager to mobilize his staff. Of course he does it based on the support that he receives from top management. So now he is getting the staff from different project sites. Now the project manager may not have worked with those staff in other projects, so it's an entirely new team. So first few months he will have to spend understanding how this person is, whether he can be relied on, how competent he is. All these things are not there in other industry, other projects. So there you are working with a fixed set of staff. You know them, you know their qualification, you know their technical capabilities, so you can assign the jobs to them based on their capability. But in construction project you are new, you don't know your staff, they are working with you for the first time, so first few months just goes like that. So this is another very difficult situation as far as construction projects are concerned. Then you have a problem in feedback mechanism also. Since it is kind of a temporary setup, project organization is a temporary setup, so everything, all the mechanism, all the system you have to establish from the very beginning. Now another problem, or rather another unique feature of a construction project is the lack of experience of client or owner. So here you will find that your client is not educated. Sometimes he may not know what exactly he wants. So when you deliver the product to him, then only he realizes that no, he didn't want this kind of product. Now compare this to purchase of a car. So the moment you go for buying a car, you are familiar with most of the things. What kind of body you want, what kind of look you want, what kind of mileage you want. So you are, in a sense, highly educated as far as the product is concerned. But that is not the case, unfortunately, with the clients of a construction project. So they may be all the time confused what kind of structure they are looking for, what kind of finish they are looking for. So all the time you have to first educate them and then deliver their project. So this is again another very peculiar situation as far as a construction project is concerned. Then finally you have a problem of untrained workforce. Normally in most of the developing countries you will find that construction industry employs agricultural laborer. So sometimes when they don't have time in their they don't have work in their agricultural field, they go to work for a construction project. So they don't know exactly what they have to do. They are not familiar with the tools that they have to use. So much effort is to be spent on first training them, and once they are trained they leave for other jobs. Now if you are working with untrained workforce, you find that the productivity is very low. So in construction projects you find that productivity is quite low, especially in developing countries, because most of the time you are dealing with untrained workforce, right? Now some more characteristics of a project. Basically a project involves a series of complex or interrelated activities. Each of these activities may be requiring some resources, and these resources are employed to achieve certain specific objectives. Now according to Moons and Bizirmi and Pinto and Slevin, it has to be completed within a set of specifications under a limited budget. For many organizations, projects are a means to respond to those requests that cannot be addressed within the organization's normal operational limits. Right? We see some more characteristics. A project may involve a single unit of one organization or may extend across organizational boundaries. For example, when you are dealing with a large project and you find that a single contractor is not capable of delivering the project, then sometimes 2-3 contractors, large contractors, they join hands and they form a joint venture. So you find that very large projects are not done alone by a single contractor, rather they are done in a joint venture manner. So 2-3 organizations, they club together, form a new company called a JV company, joint venture company, and then they take up that job. So depending on the expertise available with the companies, they tie up with other companies and they take up a job and then they complete it. Now the joint venture companies have again different types of problems. They have certain advantages, but it is also very difficult to work in a joint venture company, because there again you find that the interest clash. Okay. Now there is a book known as Project Management Body of Knowledge. We call that as PMBOK. Okay. Project Manager Body of Knowledge. Right. Now this particular manual has been it's kind of a manual, right? Now this deals with different aspects of project management. Now they have also defined a project, and this has been shown in this particular slide, computer slide. If you just see this definition, there they define the project like this. A project is regarded as a key to accomplish the business strategy of any organization, as it is the means by which the strategy is implemented, and a project is therefore not an isolated event but is a realization of objectives through concerted efforts of different participants in various phases of the project life cycle. Now we pick up two words from here, two keywords: the participants, project participants, and the project life cycle. Right? Project life cycle in which we study the different phases through which a project has to go, right? Now that I leave it for next lecture. So in the next lecture I am going to cover what are the different project participants. For example, the client, the contractor, the architect, the lawyer, right? The consultants, the subcontractors, the vendors. These things we are going to discuss. We are also going to learn what are the different project phases and what are the activities that we do in those project phases. Okay, so I just quickly summarize whatever we have discussed in this particular lecture. It was just an introductory lecture in which I gave you the broad outline of the course content. We discussed what is the importance of a construction project, basically, how much employment generation potential it offers. I requested you to collect certain data on the nature of Ethiopian construction industry. What is the current status? How many projects are showing time and cost overrun? What is the feedback on the quality of projects that is being implemented? We also discussed the various unique features of a project. We discussed the success and failure. How do we define the success? How do we define the failure? Why it is difficult to classify a project under successful project or a failed project, right? So these are some of the things that I introduced you to. The more on project life cycle and the project participants we will be discussing in next class. So if you have got any doubt, please feel free to ask. Thank you. Initial few lectures will be just theoretical. Later we will have certain numericals. We will be discussing PERT, CPM, President's Network. All those will have numerical problems. So you should be bringing the calculators along with you. I just want to understand whether you have studied this PERT and CPM. This PERT and CPM, are you familiar with? Program Evaluation Review Technique and Critical Path Method. No? Okay, so this we will be taking up. Are you familiar with bar chart? Are you familiar with this? Bar charts. They are also known as Gantt charts. Gantt charts. Have you ever heard of work breakdown structure, WBS? I'm just taking your feedback so that I can plan my lectures accordingly.
We are familiar only with bar chart.
Okay, bar chart you are familiar, fine. So okay, so I will have less time on bar chart and we will spend more time on other topics. And I think this course you should be finding it quite useful and interesting also. You will have plenty of numericals to solve, but those things will come after 3-4 lectures. So in these few lectures I want you to understand few things which will be useful for you for your master's dissertation also, master's thesis. I will tell you how to plan your research projects, what are the possible research methods that are available. So those things also I will be covering in this particular course. Okay. I also want your feedback on the first course that I taught, Construction Economics and Finance. I want you to tell me how did you like that, was it useful, all those things I require your feedback also. Okay.